All right, we are at 10 a.m. Eastern. Let's go ahead and get started. So everybody, as you kind of settle into this Zoom room, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. My name is Elizabeth Simpson. I am a senior implementation manager with IntelliBoard, and I am just delighted to be here today with all these wonderful people. So today's session is the next spotlight with us. In the first, it's a multi-institution showcase of retention, advising. Oh, hi, Wendy. Retention, advising, student support projects using IntelliBoard. Sorry, I love seeing people I know. Today we're joined by two wonderful guests from the University of Mount Olive, Dr. Kimberly Bryant and Dr. Aaron Carver. Dr. Carver is the Associate Dean of Quality Course Preparation and Design, and Dr. Bryant is the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Director of the Teaching Excellence Center. So, the point of the series is to highlight practical, replicable projects across U.S. higher ed, which are powered by IntelliBoard Analytics and inspired by your stories and your innovation. Before I hand it over to Dr. Bryant and Dr. Carver, for anyone who I have not yet really gotten to meet, IntelliBoard is a learning analytics platform. We transform your learning data to drive action. We do that by working with your existing academic technology to give you deep understanding and reveal critical insight. Um, in terms of how it operates, we're basically LMS agnostic. So Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, these are all sorts of learning management systems, and we work easily with all of them. This space, right, where your teaching and learning takes place, is what we call your primary connection. Everything we do is to centralize and make accessible what is occurring in that teaching and learning environment. We use what is happening there to populate dashboards and reports that your people can then use. And as much as we can, we leverage your individual setup. We have to account for your local context, right? Your story, the story of your institution. So we put that at the center of what we do. So if, let's say I'm an arts and sciences dean, I can see in my reporting across all of the programs that I am responsible for, right? Not my colleagues in allied health, my instructors, the students in my courses. If I'm a chair, I see a subset of that typically, right? What I am responsible for, those instructors, those courses. Teachers typically see themselves in the courses that they are teaching and their students. High level admins like Dr. Carver, Dr. Bryant, they get to see everyone and everything. Advisors, coaches, liaisons, people who are assigned a caseload of students across your institution sees that caseload, not someone else's. The vision is transparency, consistency, and wraparound support for your students. We are built for education and built by educators. Our CEO, she taught Spanish for years. Our VP of platforms used to run first year experience at Mars Hill in North Carolina. Calling it out because y'all are neighbors, right? waving to all the wonderful people in North Carolina. Personally, I used to work for the system office in the North Carolina Community College system. Before that, I worked at 4-year and 2-year state colleges where I live in Wisconsin, if you didn't recognize like that Great Lakes accent there. The point is, it gives us deep insight into what educators need in general, and then we personalize our defaults, our templates, based off of your specific needs and your specific setup. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Carver and Dr. Bryant so they can introduce themselves and their institution. Um, Dr. Carver, want to go first?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm never shy to jump into something, am I? As mentioned, I am the associate dean for, quality course preparation design, which means I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. and I prefer that. I love being busy. It's one of my gifts. I am a retired police officer, so I have not been doing this my entire life. But in that, I was also certified in forensics investigation and computers. So I love data. I love getting into systems and finding out what's occurring with it. In fact, when I saw the slide with the reports on it, I'm already getting excited to get back in IntelliBoard after this webinar because it really is a lovely system. And so I have been in higher education. So I basically educated myself out of the career field. Uh, I was tired of police chases and all that fun stuff. And so I've been at University of Mount Olive since about 2008. But not within the administration. I'm a faculty, so I'm a full professor here at the University of Mount Olive. My specialty is in terrorism and homeland security. None of this saying data, right? None of this saying instruction. None of this saying all that stuff. But here's the thing. As an adult learner, because I actually graduated here from the University of Mount Olive, I'm an alumnus. I went on to get my master's degree and my doctorate, all within the online adult learning world. I was 37 years old when I got my 4-year degree. Okay, so I'm one of those adult learners to where when we at Mount Olive say we transform lives, I'm one of them. You're looking at a product of a transformed life. And so I understand that adult population because I was one, right? So working as a faculty, eventually I moved myself up into this position because I took a particular interest in instructional design, trained myself in it, took certifications, did everything I could to learn. How am I producing something out to my students, right? I want to make sure that's top line stuff going out because I know it's going to transform their life. Well, here's the thing. Data runs all of that. And that's what really has got me before everybody today is my love for data, my love of investigations, especially computer forensics. If somebody needs someone tracked down to go after to find out what's happening on something, I get emails every day. Can you look into this? And that is, if you're familiar with the 5 love languages, Aaron solves something is a love language of mine. Go hunt, go find. And so that's who I am. And so you'll notice I'm very passionate and I'm very happy to be here. So just buckle up the seatbelt. Dr. Bryant?
First, Dr. Carver, I gotta say, that little factoid about your forensic background, like, oh, I just got some deep insight into the lovely person I've been working with.
Oh
I
boy.
appreciate
You got it. You got it, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Kimberly Bryant, and I serve as the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at University of Mount Olive, as well as the founding director of the Teaching Excellence Center. I like to call myself an education enthusiast. I started, my background was basically elementary education and teacher ed. I've been a faculty in elementary education as well as a coordinator and just kind of worked myself through various ranks as Dr. Carver has shared, doing a dream of mine, which is building a teaching excellence center here at the university, which then led to other opportunities. So I oversee the Teaching Excellence Center. I oversee the Learning Commons, which includes all of our academic support units, and newly UMO Online as well, which are basically all areas focused on supporting student success and faculty development. So glad to be here with you all today and glad to share a little bit more about the university.
it. Thank you, friends. Dr. Brandt, go ahead, ma'am.
Sure. So we are located in rural eastern North Carolina in good old Mount Olive. Pickletown is what we like to call it. And that setting really contributes to our close-knit, supportive campus environment. And it allows us to serve students across the region through our flexible and our online learning options. We serve approximately 1,800 students across the undergraduate, the graduate, and the doctoral programs, which include both our traditional residential students and our online learners. So our population is about half of that 1,800 are online, half of that 1,800 are our traditional residential students. We are a private Christian university founded in 1951, and we just happen to be celebrating our 75th anniversary. We just kicked that off. We're so excited about that. Our mission does emphasize faith, service, leadership, academic excellence, and I would like to say that that guides the work that Dr. Carver, myself, all the faculty and staff that we do each and every day here.
Amazing. Amazing. All right, friends, tell us a little bit about the student experience here.
Sure. So, again, being a former student, that initial transforming lives that I was talking about actually didn't start from curriculum. Okay. Yeah, I was a justice student here at the Mount Olive because I was a cop. That's what I did. I was a police sergeant at the time when I was working on my degrees. I wanted something more in my police career. Move up. You got to have the degree, right? But that's not what pushed me to the master's degree, and that's not what pushed me to the doctorate. What pushed me through was a relationship. Okay. So once I'm in the classroom, and I came one night a week here at Mount Olive. Anybody living in Eastern North Carolina can remember the billboards, one night a week, right? So one night a week, I was working in Raleigh. I would drive to Mount Olive a different time. Students today aren't willing to do that much, but I would drive from Raleigh to Mount Olive one night a week on Wednesday nights. What made the difference for me was someone connecting to me, someone that was watching me and seeing what I had to offer, and then saying, let's have a talk. What are you planning to do with this? You see, it's a very simple conversation. And then it was, I think you can do more, which inspired me to think outside the box. And now the more is here. You kind of get the idea. That's the student experience that we try to do here at Mount Olive as best we can. And it's very difficult to do that with an online person. A lot of times it's easy to deal with the things you see than it is the things you don't see. And
Right.
all we're viewing of our students is pixels on a screen. You're looking at these three students here on the screen right now. Who are they? What is their story? Where do they come from? Where are they going? Why are they? What is that? You get the idea. All you're seeing is a two-dimensional look at a person, and you have to invent a complete story in your head. And so the student experience here is breaking the barrier on who a person is behind the screen. I mention that all the time. Become human. I mention that to our instructors. That's also quality matters. Just saying. Who are you? Become a human being. Introduce yourself. When I'm on a Zoom, if I'm at home on a Zoom and my dog comes up, I don't apologize for that. That is a human being, right? So that is the student experience. Relationship oriented is what we're pushing. Now, that may sound like a strange way to talk about IntelliBoard, but it's not, because our students also are data packets. There's a human being, but it's a data packet. And each piece of data is going to tell me something about my students. And the more data I have, the more I can build around my student. The student on the screen standing up, perhaps this is a justice student that wants to become a highway patrolman one day. That's a data packet. That is a thing I'm learning about my student. It is personal. And that's the way we approach our data here. Everything is personal. It's connected to a breathing flesh person that has feelings, goals, and are striving for something in their life. And that is what we're doing. The person drugged me into their office one night and they said, I think you should do this. I think you would make a great professor one day. You have a great way of presenting to the class. You see that personalization that's happening? Well, that's what we're supposed to do. Hard to do online. And the bridge to it online is in the data, because that's where we learn things about our students. And then the instructional design, as you know, Elizabeth, is where we actually make it real. It's data driven. Instructional design is data driven. We know the things that our students need, and we make sure those are built into our courses. Well, how do you know what they need if you don't know what the data is telling you? So that's the student experience here. And so you got traditional students here. You can come to our campus, beautiful campus. I'm telling you, this is I've been to other universities and I still love coming home to the University of Mount Olive. A lot of green, okay? It's a beautiful campus. Lots of room between buildings. So they live here on campus. They live in the community. We have a lot of commuters. This is a great experience here for that. In our online, our main LMS is through Moodle.
Yeah.
And that is our main interactive device for managing our online classrooms. We also use it traditionally because it's a great repository for papers to be uploaded and for grades to be kept. And one of the things I'm extremely big on investigating is attendance, and we're going to get into that. So the experience of the student here at Mount Olive is one that is relationship oriented. Yes, we do educate. Yes, we do teach. But at the same time, it's about forming relationships with our students, and that's who we are. And that's what we're going to, as you see us work through this data field set today, you're going to feel the human coming through the data and what it means to us on this end when it comes to retention. I don't know if Dr. Bryant wants to add on top of that, but that's the best I can give you on student experience. It's one of those things.
I think you're spot on, Dr. Carver. Yes, the faculty care, all of that is extremely important. We know our students face some real challenges. So many of them, like you said, are adults. They're balancing that work-life balance, the family along with the academics. And so they sometimes need that additional academic support. And like you said, that data packet is what helps us
Yeah.
trigger in and be the assistance. And so that's where access to better data became important to us. We've always had IntelliBoard, but I think you can explain a little bit more into that, Dr. Carver, of how with the Pro, we have +1, we have continuously improved what we've already been doing, and we just want to be more proactive and supportive to our students. So,
Perfect. How about you guys tell us kind of the because like the data matters within the context of who of who's using it and for what. So I think that story would be an excellent, excellent one to have here.
sure.
And so friends, this is a real little screenshot of their real environment. I just hid anything that couldn't be easily shared here, right? Like these are real classes, real data being used by real people.
Yes. So with our let's just take a moment and focus on our online structure
Yeah.
for the advising model. With UMO Online, we built a model that I'd like to say intentionally connects our enrollment and our retention efforts under a
Yeah.
shared leadership approach. So what I mean by that, we have a single director of enrollment who oversees both the incoming students which is, of course, our admissions, as well as the ongoing persistence, so the retention piece. And that effort is supported by enrollment and student support coaches who are working through a trusted partnership model that we have contracted with. And so one of our key priorities has been with this now shared leadership model. If you have both the admissions and the retention side of the house underneath, your purview, it's been bringing those two into closer alignment with one another. And so we wanted to create a shared space for both of those to better understand how students are experiencing those first critical weeks of classes. As we call it, the handoff period. What are they experiencing so that we can better retain them? And so that insight really mattered for us in leadership. It helps us refine not only how we support the students once they come to us, but also how we think about who we recruit. If the
Right.
students we're recruiting are not persisting, it prompts us to reflect on whether we're reaching and preparing those right students for success.
Right.
And so I guess a story about this model, I think about students, they don't all stop out at once. Typically there's things that have led to it. So you've missed a class here or there and you follow a little bit behind and you start disconnecting. And so one of the things we do in our advising model is we pay very close attention to your attendance habits. Our online classes are 7.5 weeks. And so attendance for us is often the first signal that something is going wrong, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's just feelings of overwhelm. And so we have started with our support coaches doing outreach that's consistent. So they begin to check attendance the earlier part of the week. And they contact the students utilizing the information within IntelliBoard. And it's more of, I'm just checking on you, want to be sure you're okay, make sure all is going well. So we can do that quick outreach when something looks off.
Yeah. And
We're
Dr. Bryant, because I think this is an important part of this story, could you tell everybody how taking attendance works at UMO? Because I think this is a critical this is critical for everybody to kind of keep in mind.
Sure. I'm going to hand that off to my colleague.
The lead attendance investigator. All right. So all right. So in the advising, you've put a you've heard it from the online source, but also here traditionally we use faculty advising model. So we
Mhm.
have two different advising models, which can sometimes be kind of a challenge to navigate. So attendance, because we are an attendance bearing institution, it means that everything we do cycles around that attendance as far as return of funds, all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
so the process for taking attendance in a classroom is easy. Attendance in the classroom, are they there? Are they not there?
Right, is a button
Okay.
a seat. Yeah.
That's easy. Now, amazingly, we can still get that one wrong, right? I mean, we still, and again, this is where the data is important because it helps me find that. And then in the online world, you've got different ways of things. So, in our onlines, we do not use late is not an option. You're not late. You're our academic week starts on Monday, ends on Sunday. If you come in at after midnight on Sunday, you're not late. You were absent. So there's no late. It's just you're either absent or you are present. We do have excused absent for certain situations. So the idea for it to be present is you have to complete a gradable activity during the week. Now, I didn't
Mhm.
invent this. I can take you to the federal statute that by
Yeah.
law says that's what it is. You
Yeah.
have to do A, B, C, or D for a present value. Okay, so all this is statute out on what we're doing. So you have to be able to look at that attendance to know what is occurring. So if my student does work or has a communication with me, I can count them present. If they don't do anything, then I count them absent. And that
Right.
doesn't count just going into Moodle, right? So I can go into a student's participants in Moodle and see, oh, they were in the course yesterday. That makes them present. No, no. They actually have to engage the material. And that's not me that says that. That's Department of Education that says that.
Right.
So that's where the attendance gets to be real important on monitoring what's happening in that retention, as Dr. Bryant was mentioning. So
Yeah.
two different ways of doing things. I can be late in a classroom because I come walking in 20 minutes after it started. I cannot be late in an online class because I've had 7 days. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of the difference there. So that's the attendance taking. So I will hand that back over to my
That,
boss.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. So attendance is extremely important to us. We always want to be sure when students wait until 11:59 to submit that work, that we still give them credit for being present. So it's so
Yes.
important to us, which is why IntelliBoard is so important to us because our instructors do attendance on Sunday. So if you have
Hmm.
that student who has waited until 11:59 to do their work, they have to do their due diligence. Our instructors go back in on Monday, update the few attendance values that are there. We ask for the Sunday attendance value because it does allow us to get a start earlier
Right.
on
So then
contact.
you guys on Monday can
Yes,
basically look at
yes.
it.
But it does rely on their due diligence of going back and updating that attendance value on Monday, which is why these reportings, as Dr. Carver will share later, is so important. But when we're able to recognize and intervene early, it can change the trajectory. And again, that's just an example of the things we're starting to implement utilizing this new data and this new advising model structure.
My goodness, you guys are a delight. Okay.
That report's bothering me, Elizabeth. I've got a student in there apparently that is at a very high risk level. I, and I'm a
The one hiding behind the little call out whose name.
Yeah, and also that ADV 100. I'm a little worried on that one because that's our first initial. Anyway, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm looking at
No,
the data. Sorry, ma'am.
no, and that's real, friends. So we're gonna talk about this in just a minute here. I was really thinking about hiding that completely because I don't know, I like seeing a big list of students who I'm not worried about. It does my heart good. It's like, let's see who notices. And
And you
Dr.
saw who noticed it, right?
So points that I want to kind of bring up real quick before we talk even more about it. Um, is that this basic dash that they're using a dashboard, right? They're using a dashboard with multiple pieces on it that is shared across multiple groups at UMO. And we're really leveraging hard the filters so that they can make sure everybody has what they need when they need it. A big data point that we at IntelliBoard use for a lot of things is this submission, right? The date and time something was handed in. Because in the online asynchronous environment, that's not like a Liz judgment call. I'm not a lawyer. But when like things play out, that is a very consistent, clean, stable way to firmly say, absolutely, this student attended in this online asynchronous class. That is what counts as handing in something. So what we happen to see here is the date and the time too, if you pull it up, of the first thing handed in per student per class. That's that clean data first attendance that anybody who's getting federal financial aid really needs to think about. And then the advisors, the advising teams kind of hide this and then start worrying about, all right, we got them in the door. Great. Now we got to make sure they stay. So we're really watching ongoing what is happening here in the real world. Um, and I'll kind of flip it back over here to chat about what really how we set this up, right? From your guys' perspective, why we did what we did. Because hearing that story from you guys is is really what our audience needs to hear.
Okay, so and I had to find my mute button. So what you're basically seeing is the filter system that we're using. I would say probably within this filter system for what I do, I'm using a lot of that the courses that the one
Mhm.
right above it. Because I'm breaking it down into exactly what data it is that I'm looking for. So the filters is very important. So what we're seeing is the LMS is punching into IntelliBoard these different data fields that have been built into my report, which allows me to filter through what I'm looking for. And what that's going to allow me to do is to cater these reports where I need them to go. So again, what is it that I need to know? One, as the student even logged into Moodle in the first place, right? I mean, that's key because if I don't see that login into Moodle, what are my other configurations that's happening with that student? Have they been properly oriented? Do they even know
Exactly.
how to get to Moodle by
Do they
going through
know the
my
first
UMO?
data class? Right.
It
That's
is. That is like the big, huge level. Okay, they're in there. Now have they entered the course? So I've got that data. Now I know they're in Moodle. Now I know that they're in the course, but they haven't done anything. That's another issue I need to think of. Why aren't we doing it? Are we confused by the instructions? Are we not getting proper? You see all these questions that are formulating. And again, remember, I said this thing is about the data becoming a human being. So because I'm an adult learner, I know what it's like. You go into this course, and if it's too busy, you are immediately overwhelmed. And when a human mind becomes overwhelmed, and this is what we call incident shock, the person will immediately shut down. It's why when you see a report about somebody in a critical incident, they freeze. Okay, this will happen to a student. This is why landing pages don't need to be busy. They need to be clean. They need to be simple. You see how I'm connecting all these little principles to that one piece of data? What have they not done? If they've done something, the reports allow me to see what it is they're doing, high critical, low critical. Do they seem to be taking all the quizzes, but they're not doing their papers? What could that be indicative of? I could have a writing problem. Do I need to get learner support involved? Do I need to start making recommendations to the student? I can't. I, I would need all day to go through how I could take all this data and use it for each part of the person. And
Mhm.
I'm just at date of submission and looking at something. I'm not even getting into the risk scores yet. I'm not even looking at those things. I'm just looking at what my key metrics are and how
Right.
those things are being used by me in order to do this investigation. And so LMS, I need it. And, Put a 5-5 in the chat. 5-5 in the chat. If you've had to sit there and take hours to go through your LMS trying to track down a piece of data on a student because you don't know, was it the instructor issue, was it a student issue, and so you spend your time in as an observer in your LMS, which means you can't see everything. And so you're fighting your LMS to get data, and you can take 4 to 5 hours on that. Well, I can tell you, if you're taking 4 to 5 hours going through your LMS on something, I'm doing it in like 30 seconds using IntelliBoard. Okay. Now, it may take me time to go through the data and find what I need, but I've got it all. And once I know what I'm looking for, it moves quickly. So as far as a time saving and that student information time management, everything is coming into play. The faster I get on something, the faster I can correct it. And
Right.
so that's why what's happening between the student information system, which is for us would be Power Campus. It's in the background. It's pumping stuff over to Moodle. Moodle's pumping stuff out to it. It's pumping stuff out to IntelliBoard. We're doing all this data switching and going across so that I can take all of that and turn it into a picture, because that's really what data analysis is about. It's taking words, turning it into numbers, then taking the numbers and turning it back to words. There y'all go. You just got stats for free right there. Everybody just got it. That's all you're doing. You're shaking up numbers to come up with a picture, but you got to be organized on that picture. And that's what you're looking at, is the picture that was once a bunch of ones and zeros.
And just for the good of the audience, we've got three kind of big buckets of data that UMO is using. Number one is the Moodle, just straight is Moodle, is the LMS, the data is straight from Moodle. So that's like grades, that's time spent, that's what people have touched or not. That's right, that sort of teaching and learning data. They're using a plugin for attendance as well. So that is that critical piece for Dr. Carver, Dr. Bryant. That is where the instructors are taking attendance. So in addition to us tracking from Moodle when people have handed in stuff or not, the instructors every Sunday are taking attendance inside this plugin and we're pulling it in. I saw some questions earlier about Banner or the portal. Usually that is attendance taking done inside the student information system. That's another piece that IntelliBoard often needs to work with, right? Things in the record system, the student records, those are critical. We can just see here like the degree information. Moodle doesn't need to have that, right? Your LMS doesn't need to have that, but the people who are supporting the students absolutely need to have that. But that doesn't really live in the teaching and learning environment typically. Seeing the statuses of the students, other critical things like credit load, academic standing, things that don't really live in your LMS on its own. What we do is we bring in all that data into one location so all your people have an interface to use that. So in UMO's story, attendance data, LMS data, and then SIS student record data, all in one location, shared thoughtfully in the hands of the people who are allowed to see it so they can make some quick informed decisions with as minimal jumping between environments as possible. Because we want them spending their time working with students, not digging around, hoping and praying they stumble upon the thing that they needed to see. Oh, let's see here. I think we talked about just about everything. Let me kind of turn this around a little bit and have you guys reflect on like the felt impact so far. So, Dr. Carver, I know you've got
Yes.
100,000 stories in your back pocket.
I am, I just, I can't hardly express it.
Dr. Carver, if you don't mind sharing about, I'll say this.
Yeah.
Less than 24 hours ago, Dr. Carver was sending nice emails to people to remind them to, hey, this particular student actually made a submission after, I guess after you taking your attendance value. If you don't mind going in, checking, and amending their attendance value. that helps before the fire comes. And I say the fire because, if we have students marked absent when they shouldn't be, then that could have financial implications and things like
Yes.
that. And that also has us reaching out to them for, coaching when they indeed were not absent. So I can already give you some of the impact there of how quickly he's able to, based off of just gathering all this in the report to rule them all, as we call it, he's able to have those friendly conversations that don't feel, they don't feel like you're in any trouble or anything like that. It's just we're simply trying to make sure the student is successful and is getting what they need. Dr. Carver, would you like to?
Yeah, because that's where the transition from where we were at in IntelliBoard Lite, which were
Yeah.
stylized reports.
Yes.
Okay, I could get the reports I needed, but I had to get 6 different reports to get what I needed. And I remember talking to my LMS administrator. I'm like, is there any way I can get this out of 6 reports? And she goes, well, yeah, but we'd have to upgrade to IntelliBoard Pro. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, then why haven't we upgraded to IntelliBoard Pro? Yeah, and then you get the thing. You know how it is in an organization.
Yeah. And
So
she's a delight. All right. That's just life.
absolutely. So me and her started working on, well, you got to convince other people something's of value, right? And so we finally got that value communicated last summer. And so remember, I'm talking about Dr. Bryant's talking about all those emails I sent out last night. Here's the thing, that used to come from 7 reports.
Yeah.
It would take me 5 to 6 hours sometimes to run through, because you got to remember, think about pulling in Excel sheets with anywhere from 15 to 20,000 lines using a common number like the PCID number in order to
Yes.
do VLOOKUP and connect. Just think of the programming Excel I used to do. Last night, I sent out different reports. One was because there was a present value and the student's never been in the class. Everybody knows that's a problem, right? We're about to charge financial aid a student that's never been inside of the Moodle class. Okay, we need some explanation for that.
Yeah.
I also was sending out reports on absence where I'm showing where the student did work, and it tells me what work they did. So I'm no longer going, I can't really tell. Now I'm sending these people exact information of what I'm seeing, and what I'm getting back is, sorry, you're right, I'm correcting it. No longer is it requiring them to go in and find it. I've found it, and I didn't have to go into LMS to do it. It's right there in IntelliBoard, right? So that was a report I sent out last night. I also sent out a report to my advising and retention team that there were nevers been in that have now been absent 2 weeks in a row. I'm concerned about these students. Now, here's the thing, Elizabeth. Here's the thing. I didn't get that off a bunch of different reports. I got that off that same report that you worked with me to create 3 weeks ago. That is the report. And that is where IntelliBoard Pro has me happier than anything, because I can go in, I know what base report to use, and then I can configure it. And I know that's something you're probably going to talk about later, so I won't tear that up too much. But I was able to configure the report to output what I needed to do my job.
Yeah.
And now I don't go, oh, it's time to go do the reports. Now I'm excited. Let's go do the reports.
Yeah.
So, because that information is important to me. The risk information is important to me, understanding what that data means. And I had to train everybody so far that's in their personas and using this data. Here's how you read these numbers. You got to look at, and it is a totality. You got to look at everything that's happening within that data to get the picture of the human being. And so the impact has been on top of it quicker. It used to be, I found out about those attendance errors. I found out about, here's a negative story, but this is how I found out about one of them. The student was at another university and couldn't get financial aid because we were showing them present.
Oh, no.
Okay. IntelliBoard's taking that away from me. IntelliBoard's taking that away from me. I'm finding it now 2 days after it's done rather than a semester later. Anybody that does this business and that knows exactly what I'm talking about, again, give me the 5 5s if you've been there, knows that as the sooner you get on top of that fire, the less it's going to spread. And that is, if I sound passionate about it, it's because I've been stuck flat-footed without the data. And now I honestly feel like I'm not going to. So you talking about the impact of data here. Those people can smile because they know somebody's looking after their backs behind them. Okay. That's the impact we're having on it. These students you see facing have no clue what is going into supporting them. They're just going in a classroom, taking quizzes and writing papers. They don't realize how much we have their backs, and we're trying to make sure that every single resource to them counts and is not wasted.
Yeah. Like a
There you
comment.
go. There's my sermon, Elizabeth. Sorry.
No, and it's a delight, right? Being very thoughtful about this sort of thing. So you're spending your time with them, right? Focusing on the students who need it most so you can make some quick differences with people's lives. No, that is what we want. Um, so kind of quick summary of how this is operating from more of the technical side. I want to just kind of this is like the beautiful magic running in the background. So I mentioned before at the very beginning, the LMS, so the teaching and learning data comes primary. That is what we centralize. Most projects don't need much outside of that, right? That's kind of like showcases nicely what most educators need is the data inside your teaching and learning environment. But sometimes it's helpful. IntelliBoard, we can accommodate these additional sources of data, either by a spreadsheet for like a one-time upload or something specific or something short-term or something after the fact, right? A lot of times that's done for like accreditation questions or where we're looking at historical data rather than right now. For what UMO is doing, and really whenever we are enabling a student success team to make informed decisions, we usually need that data coming from the student records and usually an automation to help it all work well as well, right? The most critical pieces. So everybody knows, like in UMO's case, who's the brand new student, who's a continuing student, what's their major, what kind of degree program are they in, so we can quickly figure out who needs to look at who and when. Common thing, other things, major, credit load, right? Things like that. So most of the LMSs update every 4 hours. That's the case for UMO. So as students are handing in stuff, are touching stuff, stuff is getting graded, teachers taking attendance, every 4 hours, that data is coming into IntelliBoard. Anybody, so like Moodle, anything on Moodle, OpenLMS, Learning Pool, Moodle US, that is a plugin inside the LMS. For anybody not on Moodle, D2L, Canvas, Blackboard, I don't think I missed anybody, but that's an API call. It does the same job. It is getting the data into IntelliBoard so we can then share that with whoever needs to see it. And then in UMO's case, we also set up an automation between that student information system and IntelliBoard that updates every 24. The goal is that everybody has what they need when they need it, so they're spending their time supporting the students, not digging around in places. Because if we don't can something like this to a student retention team, right, somebody assigned a caseload of students scattered across the environment, they're spending most of their time either running around to all the classes, jumping in and out, hoping they see something, or they really don't see much at all, and instead they need to request data from instructors or from administrators. And as much as possible, it makes sense to enable these people to see what they need to see so they can do their good work. I also want to call out real quick something very special about what UMO is doing. They're leveraging our risk point system to indicate, like out of a kind of lineup of students with no additional context into what's happening, how are they actually doing in the context of this class? Advisors, success coaches, people wearing that sort of hat typically have a caseload of students. They need to follow that student across everything at your institution, which is important, right? Their job is to center that student. The fact, though, is they have very little context into the class itself, right? They don't necessarily know the instructors. The students are often in a variety of different kinds of classes, and that can be very tricky to interpret. So they can see the student grades, student homework submissions, access, but that doesn't tell them how the other students in the same class are doing. So, like example, I am a success coach. I have a student named Susan. She has a C. How does that C compare to her classmates? That's the story I need to figure out. Is this a tricky class, right? Is that a hard-earned C? That is always a possibility. I used to work at a business college, and as a team, I was an instructional designer there. We would all review courses that had like a certain threshold of student grades, right? And I think it was 75%, right? The average grade was 75% or below. We gave it a deep dive, like why this class, right? Why this class? And there's many answers to that. We had a statistics class that was always in there. It was a student getting a C was a hard-earned C. Is that Susan's story? Or is she in particular struggling and the rest of the class has a very different sort of grade? That's what her retention team needs to know, and very quickly. So risk points come with our defaults. It is there, it is on. We are making it clean and easy to see how that student compares to their classmates in the exact same class. It's on and running the day you connect to IntelliBoard, and always, always delighted to chat about the specifics. But high level, risk is calculated by looking at engagement, access, and progress. So let's say I have 20 students in the same class in Moodle. We are tracking every day their visits, their time spent, the days since they've last handed in something, and comparing them to each other. So a couple slides ago, and Dr. Carver saw that one student, a named student who had a very high, right, risk score, but he still had a very good grade. He had an A. So I remember looking at that as well, but ooh, nothing bad has happened yet, right? He still has an A, which is great. We need to make sure he has what he needs to keep that A. Because if something has happened, we need to know so we can make sure he's going to be okay. Right, same students, same class, same teacher. We're measuring apples to apples as much as we can and saying, this student in particular, check on this one, right? You don't need to know the specifics about the rest of the class. We are calling out for you, like this one in particular, this is who you might want to check on today before anything else has occurred, before there's any other, like a more lagging indication that someone is struggling. I love using risk points for anyone in a retention role because you don't need, it is not mandatory to dig into the class shell itself to see how the student is doing. You don't have to dig in the grade book and look at how everybody is doing. It will never replace a conversation. It will never replace a relationship. But what it does do is highlight somebody who may need a hand before they reach out, before a flag comes in, before there's a problem. Also, just kind of last note on risk points here. Don't have to worry about it for you guys at UMO, but it is very normal for students to be in a variety of delivery methods concurrently, right? An online class plus a face-to-face class plus a hybrid class plus a whatever. When we're looking at data, an online class looks very different to a face-to-face class, right? Time spent is much lower, access looks different. Risk points work beautifully without the need for any additional setup across all of the delivery methods. At UMO specifically, we've taken this report template called the Learner Success Dashboard, out of the box. So this is my fake data. It looks a lot like, their real data. There's a reason for that. It's the same template. We just personalized it based off of what UMO needed. And out of the box, it comes out beautifully telling us, centering the student, how is that student doing across all of the classes they're currently enrolled in. And in their case, we added data from the SIS and the attendance plugin that we were talking about earlier. The first time they've handed in something, the first time they've opened the class, the last time they handed in something, what it was, and so on. So at a glance, everybody who needs that information has it cleanly and consistently exactly when they need it. And as mentioned before, we do often need data that does not live in the LMS. What we're typically doing is generating a very specific report that answers the exact questions these people need answered. And then we're sending it to an SFTP typically. And then the SFTP drops it into the hands of the people who need it. So I think a big change for UMO in particular, this was really not an option in the legacy platform. And it's because of just kind of the advanced setup that needs to occur. Critically important, but we need to personalize the templates and the environments in practice. All right. And the next exciting step at UMO is getting this data into the hands of even more people, which we're actively working on right now. Dr. Bryant, you want to take a moment and chat future state?
Oh, yes, I think you're exactly right. Dr. Carver and I were just talking this morning about onboarding our academic leadership. One of the things that he's been doing is taking this information and sharing it with the assistant deans. However, we want to orient them to be able to read and do these things on their own
Mm-hmm.
so that they're able to have a quicker impact on the areas that directly, impact them.
Yeah,
Instructors, we definitely would like to get that into their hands because we think that will help them go in and self-correct, on those
exactly.
Mondays. It's a much easier way than trying to search through the LMS to try to figure out, should I have counted them present or not? Or, it's easier if they're able to have their own persona, go in, look at their class, say, oh,
Yep.
it's now time to mark this person. So
Yep.
that is definitely something we desire to do as well. I think
We can even give them the same dashboard. We're just changing who they see on it, right? So a
yes,
teacher sees their students, leadership sees their students, right?
yes.
To consistency as much as possible.
I agree, and that helps them see what we're able to see, which is why we make some of the decisions we make. So I think that transparency is just something we're looking forward to. As you said, we have students who are on different various sanctions. So some of the other next steps we have are getting those people who work directly with those students through a structured program we have called our Learning Accountability Program. We want to
Yeah.
get those people who work with them access so that they're able to see a snapshot of how the student they're working with each week is doing. So we have a lot of dreams for this and aspirations and how we hope to continue to plus one, as Dr. Carver and I call it, as we go throughout this academic year.
Oh my gosh. Dr. Carver, anything you want to add here? Or is there anything that we haven't been able to talk about yet? Just looking at the time, we've had such a good time.
No, again, there's a lot that could be said. I'm not even going into needs grading because that's also the risk score tells me something of that story, right? Looking at the points,
Yes.
how many points? I'm 7 weeks in and I got a class with 80 points out of 1,000. That
Yeah.
tells me there's a grading issue. I need to, so
Yes.
there's a needs grading report. I don't have to go to the LMS. I just keep coming back to that. And it's like drinking water out of a fire hydrant with this because of just how much availability and flexibility is built in.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Oh gosh. So to kind of work on wrapping us up, we have two more webinars come the next two, right? We have lots of more webinars coming up. The next two webinars coming up. Also still student support and retention, just slightly different hats to it, right? Next is April 8th, Isothermal Community College, and then May 5th, UNC Charlotte is joining us. On April 8th, We are hearing about isothermal community colleges transition to IntelliBoard from Watermark. So they're going to be talking about their advising approach, strategies. We've got a group of people from that institution wearing different hats, kind of sharing their perspective on this, what they needed, setup, impact, and so on. Their project is also very similar to University of Mount Olive. So if you thought this was great, and it is, you'll probably want to send isothermal some love and see how a similar sort of institution is doing something similar, but their own, right? Individual context, individual story, very similar needs. And on May 5th, we're going to have a really exciting conversation with Lynn Wall. She is the Director of Digital Learning Production at UNC Charlotte. So she is going to be talking about how they're supporting design through data. Dr. Carver is like, I'm going to sign up for that one for sure. But like in practice, right? Like in practice, this is what we see. This is what we do. Amazing stories and amazing people. But how they're making changes to their teaching and learning environment by studying what is happening in their teaching and learning environment. So to wrap us up, if anybody is new to IntelliBoard, I want to direct you to book a demo with us. You'll be chatting with Carol, who is lovely, and she's able to offer special pricing. Her email is Carol, let me grab that here if I can, Carol@IntelliBoard.net. And oh, thank you, my beautiful assistant in the back. You can scan that QR code as well. I want to take another moment, thank our fabulous guests for joining us today. Everybody, please give these two a huge round of applause. I could spend all day with them. If you've registered, you're going to receive an email with a link to this recording once we've had a chance to process and review it. I'll see everybody on April 8th. Oh, thank you and take care, everyone.